Hello, and welcome to Amputee For Life, created to focus on members of the limb loss community and those who support them. We will feature testimonials from amputees, family members, and professionals working within the limb loss community, and include strategies, ideas, and heartfelt stories in the hope of providing greater awareness around the lives of some of the most amazing and resilient people on earth. My name is Jared Taylor, and I will be your host. On today's episode, I'm meeting with Tom Briselle. Tom is the owner and prosthetist at Cornerstone Prosthetics and Orthotics in Bellingham, Washington. Tom has been my prosthetist for 9 years. Although we met prior to my amputation,
Yes.
when I was fitted for dynamic bracing, and as far as I remember, I was the first civilian that was fitted with the dynamic brace.
At least here, yes.
At least here, yes. And we can get into that a little bit more later in the conversation. I discussed in my last episode a little bit about the dynamic bracing and what it had done for me and what it didn't do and what its purpose is. So, Tom, how long have you been a prosthetist?
I graduated from school in 1992. So you start a year residency program, both one for orthotics and one for prosthetics after that. So I did my prosthetics first, so I guess I was a prosthetist in 1993.
Why did you choose this profession?
When I was young, I was in high school, a family friend of mine's father was paralyzed. He had an accident, he was paralyzed, and I happened to be in the hospital the day that they had some braces made for him. And I thought, oh, that was pretty neat, but at the time I was doing physical therapy. I was acting as a physical therapy assistant, thinking I was going to go to physical therapy school down the road. And the prosthetics and orthotics program called me and said, hey, we also have some room if you'd like to join this program. And I'd remembered my friend's father who had braces made, and I thought, oh, that's pretty neat, and I like to work with my hands. So I made kind of the rash decision and decided I'm going to go into school for prosthetics and orthotics.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you, I'm one of hundreds throughout the years that you've assisted and helped, and we truly appreciate your work and your willingness to drop everything, which you've done many, many times for me. In fact, I actually had your office staff do a little research for me prior to this meeting, and it turns out since December 2015, I've had 117 scheduled appointments with you.
Yeah, I pulled up your chart right here. That's when you started seeing us was actually in June of 2015 for the AFO.
For the AFO, wow, and that's just the scheduled appointments. I know that I've been here multiple times, multiple years without it being scheduled.
There's been a few, yes.
And also they looked into it and it turns out that I've had what they could determine was 8 check sockets here, but I feel like we've done more than that.
Yeah, we probably did a few along the way that just were only counted as just a redo or something.
Right.
That's what I would guess.
Yeah, it seems like there was more than 8, but
Yeah.
truly, I don't know what I'd do without you.
Well, thank you.
And thank you, because it's made my life as an amputee so much easier. And knowing that I have someone who's a professional and is so reliable and, actually a really great guy to be around, it helps so much, because a lot of us are in a state of perpetual depression or anxiety or frustration and worry and pain. And when we see you and we come out, I can speak for myself, and I know others have told me too. We talk about you when we're behind your back.
It could be trouble.
You definitely have bettered our lives.
Good.
So, with that being said, I wanted to ask you, what has been the most rewarding aspect of this job?
Oh, there's a lot of them. You just mentioned this personal relationships are key to me. You get to know somebody and get to be friends with people that you work with. 117 visits, is that what you said? Mm-hmm. So you get to work with a lot of people, and so those personal relationships, they mean a lot. Obviously, getting somebody up that was told would never walk again because of other other problems they've had after their amputation. They said they couldn't walk, and so they sit in a wheelchair for 3 years, and then they decide, oh, I'm ready for a leg, and you stand them up, and they cry because the first time that they stood up in 3 years, thinking that they never would stand again, and that's rewarding. And I get a lot of stories like that, or getting a little kid that has never had a prosthetic leg before, and all of a sudden he's standing, walking on a leg, and it's a whole new world to them. It's different, but I think it's probably the personal relationships you form through the years with people that are so rewarding or gratifying. I mean, there's guys that I've done things with outside of the office because we just become friends and just kind of naturally clicked into a hobby that maybe I like and they like at the same time. So it just works out really good.
I'm glad to hear that. The reward of watching us take our baby steps and stand on our own, or you say stand on our own 2 feet, but that's not necessarily true. But standing again, and walking again, and running again, and biking, and snowboarding, and water skiing, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I still like that feeling of the person that comes in and they stand up for the first time, and my first question is, can I take a picture? Or do you want to take a picture? Because I want them to be able to document that, because it's a really neat experience for them when they kind of get that realization, wow, I'm standing on 2 legs again, and I have a mirror down at the end of the parallel bars for them to look at, and I usually get out of the way so they can look at that. They can see themselves standing, and they go, hey, I can do this. And it might be hard for them to think they're going to be able to do it, but they see themselves, and it kind of gives them a little motivation. And yeah, those are some neat things.
Indeed.
That very first day.
We're talking a lot about lower limbs, and I know that you work with individuals who have lost their arms or an arm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've met a couple amputees that are upper limb amputees, and it's difficult to understand what they might experience. We're not talking about they're on their own 2 feet, but to not be able to use their hand or hands. What is that like when you're working with them? Same sort of reward?
Oh, sure. Exact same thing. They're able to take their baseball cap off by themselves.
That's great. I love it. I love hearing these stories. I know that there are times that you can be probably very challenged with your work and trying to get, like for me, for example, how difficult it is to get me fitted.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's a little bit different, and there's some that fit in there real easy, but everybody's a bit of a challenge because everybody has their own unique little problem, or they have another health concern that we have to worry about, or they have a bone that's not quite as normal as it should be, and yeah, everybody's a little bit different, and there are challenges, but they don't make it. There's none any less than anybody else. Whether they have a difficult challenge or an easy challenge, it doesn't make it any less difficult for me, because I want everybody's to be perfect. So if everybody's is not perfect, it doesn't feel quite as right to me.
Well, I, for one, definitely know how hard you work. I see it, and I feel it, and I live it. So again, thank you. So I asked you which was the most rewarding, and then I was going to ask you what you find most challenging.
I mean, as far as the device that I found most challenging, or the part of the fitting that I find most challenging?
The part of the job, in general.
I guess if things don't go right, that's hard for me, because I would rather everybody just be able to walk out of here and do great, and everybody stand up on their leg the first day and know that they're not going to take off on it, but know they're going to work towards a goal, and then I see them and they can't do that. And whether is it my fault, or is it the fault of the device, or is it the fault of the patient not being able to get up, other health concerns. So that's the toughest part, just dealing with that. I mean, obviously insurance is not very fun to deal with, but luckily I don't have to deal with that as much as the ladies up front. Yeah,
that's why you have a great
yeah.
support and army up there. What's the funniest story? I mean, showcasing the humanity in your field of work, because like I said, a lot of us, I felt like an infant for probably the first 5 to 7 years of being an amputee. And I didn't know anything. I still don't know a lot, but to break through the hardship and the worry and the fears that us as amputees experience, there has to have been like some kind of a breakthrough moment with somebody where you had this really funny experience. I don't know if that even makes sense, but
Well, I mean, there's obviously been some funny stories of prosthetic legs through the years that I have. I have a gentleman that he used to have a fabulous bar bet. He'd go into the bar and said, "I bet I can put 1 foot on the floor and 1 foot on the ceiling. I'll bet you a beer I can do it." He won a lot of beers because he'd take his prosthetic leg off and he'd put that on the ceiling and he'd stand on the ground, and he won a lot of beers out of that. I'm sorry I just gave away his deal, but he got beers for many years.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, just experiences like that. So I love it, absolutely. That's a really funny story, and hopefully he isn't listening.
He has moved since he's moved to Arizona, so if he hears this, I'm sorry.
So I'm going to shift gears a little bit here, Tom, and talk a little bit about the home life. If you're willing, your family has witnessed countless times your selflessness as you've dropped what you're doing to come to the aid of many of us, whom oftentimes are scared, like I said before, panicked and in terrible pain, much like a severely wounded animal who doesn't have the tools or savvy yet to fend for ourselves. So what effects has this profession had on you as a father and a husband?
Well, I don't think it's really affected that much. I mean, like you said, there's been nights I've been called out as late as 1:30 in the morning before. But nothing's really affected my family. They all understand that it's part of the job, and my wife's in the healthcare industry too, and so she knows that things happen. You got to take care of it, and if you don't take care of it, somebody else suffers. So you might as well get it taken care of.
I think I should have asked that question differently, because what you have done for us and your profession is you've brought your abilities and traits as a father and a husband into your workplace. And that's why I'll say and speak for many of us that it feels like you're part of our family.
Yeah, a lot of people know my family. A lot of people know what I do because we spend hours in a small room together talking. We've got to figure out something to talk about when we're not talking about the problems their legs having. So, yeah, most people know my family, and I like that. I like that feeling that they know that. They ask me. I still have a couple people that remember me being off work when my first child was born. That's 25 years ago.
Wow.
Almost 26 years ago. So,
well, I remember
they still come in.
I remember your wife when I was going to physical therapy as a fresh amputee. And so knowing that the two of you are in the healthcare community here in our area and doing wonderful things for so many people. And, I've been to your home. You've been to my home. You've come to my rescue and my aid when I was a new amputee, and you needed to come and recast me at my home because I couldn't make it.
That.
There was some hard times. So, yes, definitely a part of our family. And I think that's what I wanted to focus on today with meeting with you. I appreciate the time that you've taken to meet with me, but I really want to shine a light on one person who makes a difference in the lives of not only us amputees, but our families. So you've touched thousands and thousands of people's lives, and you've bettered our lives, and you're a humble guy, and you're very eager to teach us and share with us all that you can and all that you know. And it's made me more informed as an amputee and helped me get through some really difficult times. Another side note here, I was thinking earlier, sometimes I get these notices about new technology. Do you know of anything that's coming through or down the pipeline that could be of great benefit to amputees that maybe Cornerstone's involved with, or anything that you know of?
I mean, most of the stuff right now seems to be centering around the materials and the fabrication to make things quicker and easier, using CAD systems or 3D printers, and to do some of the smaller stuff. We can just do things a little bit faster for people, so get them back on their feet a little faster. We have a system now that we're using. It actually 3D prints their trial socket. It's nothing that you really want to send somebody out walking on, but it can get them their first fit, 2 days after I cast, or even a day after I cast if I wanted to.
I want that.
So it's really fast. So it makes it really nice. It saves a lot of time, and it gets us into some people into walking sooner. So you got to think of these people that are new amputees and they haven't walked for a long time. It's a huge benefit to get them started right away. The faster they can get started, the better off they're going to be, assuming they're healed up and ready to go. It gets their mind set and gets them ready to walk, as opposed to, realizing that, I'm going to sit in the chair the rest of my life. You get them in a leg, they're like, oh, maybe I can walk. Maybe I will be able to do this. And it's a big benefit the faster we can go.
I know that feeling. I'm not sure if you remember when, after my amputation, I was told, obviously they tell you things at the hospital, but I was told at Harborview that I'd be on crutches for 6 weeks, and I ended up being on crutches for 16 weeks. I don't know if you remember that, but I was just not...
You were in a cast.
I was in a cast most of that, and I was a pretty swollen guy.
Yeah, we did multiple cast chains on you, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. So when I finally got into that first test socket, which I look back on now, and it's just so ginormous, it's hilarious compared to the size of my sockets now. So that again shows how much has changed over the last 9 years for me, and will continue to as years go on. I have something that I brought with me, Tom, and I want to share this with our audience, not to embarrass you, but more to show the caliber of man that you are. So this is an article from the Bellingham Herald from July 6th, 2016. And I'm going to read a little portion of it. A Ferndale man and his teenage sons received one of the U.S. Coast Guard's highest honors Tuesday, July 5th, for their rescue nearly a year ago of 5 members of a family whose boat had capsized in rough waters off Cherry Point. Tom Briselle was awarded the Silver Life Saving Medal, and his sons were awarded the Meritorious Public Service Award for their daring rescue of 5 people, including a 6-year-old girl who was trapped under the boat. Tom and his sons were crabbing about a quarter-mile offshore when they saw an overturned boat with 4 people clinging to it. As they drew alongside, Tom dived headlong into 50-degree water to free the young girl who was tangled in netting under the 14-foot motorboat. He brought the girl to the surface and she began breathing spontaneously. Probably one of the most notable things you can do is save someone's life, said Coast Guard Captain Joe Raymond in a ceremony at the Coast Guard station in Bellingham. You've given them a gift. To save someone's life is truly an amazing thing. When that happened, I was a new amputee. We had just started working together, and that story hit the newspaper. And the amount of pride that swelled up in me just knowing you. And that was second nature to you. You just did what you felt was right. And
sure.
Yet you do this for people every day. And I don't know if you really realize how many lives you have saved, Tom. And so with that, I want to thank you, and I just want to express my gratitude for you and your expertise, your patience, and your friendship that we've generated over these years. And I look forward to all the many other years that we'll work together, probably, hopefully, for the next 30 years, because I don't think that I'll be able to handle working with any other prostheticists.
I'll have to get my kid involved when I retire, then
yes,
move on to him.
I think that's a great idea. Again, I want to thank you, Tom, for your time, and really appreciate everything that you do for us on a daily basis.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yep, I'm glad to do it.
And it shows. And it shows. Thanks again. You're a hero to many of us, and just want to spread the word about your goodness. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us today on Amputee for Life. Please stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, stay well, be safe, and please remember to enjoy the little things.